it take you a while to learn this?
It takes a while to get, it takes a lot of practice to get good at it. Well, that's a relative term. You might think you're good after the first pot and be happy and that'll be that. But that's hard. But to make pieces well enough to sell to the public, it takes a little while. So what I want to demonstrate, that's the birdhouse, but these are the bell heads that later will become those over there. But something that I think we may all relate to is, I don't know when these bowls came out, but we all know, anybody familiar with this type of glass bowl? From the 50s and the 60s, Pyrex, yeah. And so when I was working down in North Carolina, that was a shape of bowl and serving piece that they would make, and they called them bent handle bakers, bent handle bowls. And the reason that this was so good for production potting was, after making the bowl, rather than waiting a few hours maybe for the next day to do a separate operation of attaching the handle, right at the point of making it, you bend the side over and you've got handles right there. So that's what I want to demonstrate. And the one I'm going to do is going to be, those are like the smaller 2.5 pounds. This is a medium, and this is 4.5 pounds. And so what I'm going to do first is get this clay centered. See how this wheel does. Well, that's okay. Like I said, I haven't had a wheel here before. I just set this up for you ladies coming today.
We feel honored.
Oh, good. Well, I really want to demonstrate, because it makes the trip a little bit more interesting. And so I'm using my hands and my hand strength to get the wobbles out of the clay, and that's called centering. So that's see how it's kind of still and sort of domed that is? And now I need to open the center by sticking my thumbs right down in the middle. And I need a little light. And so there they go. And at and where I am, you know, I can just sort of by feel and memory, muscle memory, know that I've gone far enough down to the bottom. You want the bottom to be about 1/4 inch or a fat 1/4 inch thick. And now I'm putting pressure across that bottom surface. That's called compressing the bottom. And if you don't do that very well, sometimes in the drying, the piece will develop a little S-crack, and you have to, chuck it. So that's that. So now I'm going to do what's called coning up. And when I have my students over here, I say it's like, I'm 62, and I grew up with Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, and one of the famous wrestlers had a move here called a claw. And so I call the pincer and the claw. And so this is the pincer and this is the claw. And so I'm applying most of the pressure with my left hand on the claw. The pincer is more just for refining and controlling that motion. And making bowls, when you want to go high and then out, you always want to leave enough clay at the top so when you're finished, it's not too thin. So anyway, I've been making pottery for about 30 years. We've been here for 24. And we were living in North Carolina. I grew up in Virginia, Holly grew up in North Carolina. And there was a very rich tradition of potters there in North Carolina, where I had a chance to work as an apprentice for 2.5 years, one shop, and then I journeyed at different shops in what I would call more traditional pottery sites. I was able to work with 5th and 6th generation potters, and so that's why this bent handle bowl is sort of has relatively historical shape, coming from everyday industrial production. And so I'm getting some of the water out of the inside. So has anybody here taken a pottery class, seen pottery made?
I went to Pool Pottery once.
Oh, where?
In England.
Okay.
Pool Pottery.
Yeah, the guy I apprenticed with was from Stoke-on-Trent.
Oh, my mom's in
So now I'm going to start putting shape into this piece. What I'm using, and I make most of my tools, I don't use many tools. I use this cedar rib, this little putty knife, a sponge, water, and my hands is pretty much it. Most of the more challenging work comes in the glazing part of it. Oh, here it is.
In the glazing part, is that like ceramics then?
It is. And the ceramics being that usually you have the piece that is purchased already made, and then you go to the shop and they have things for you to select, and then they have the glazes. And most of those glazes you would probably apply with a brush. I like to make enough glaze so like the chili pepper beige, I dip that. I can dip most of my glazes, and I make most of my glazes from scratch. It's much more, economical. And so I'm just going to start giving some shape to this bowl.
I like all the shapes.
I like having the waves in it.
All the ones you made so far.
And as the piece gets wider at the top, you want to slow the wheel down so that centrifugal force won't send it out of center.
Do you have a pedal there?
No, this is all the wheels are electric right here.
Oh, okay.
That's the pedal. And most potteries that you go see somebody like me working, the making or the forming of the piece is usually the quickest part of the whole process. I was looking at this a little bit, looking at that shape. I think it's about ready. So what I'm looking for is just a little bit of a flare out at the top. I'm going to get all the water out from the inside. And now I'm going to give it a stop. And so I'm going to give it a support. I think I'll do it from the side. I'll give some support, and I'm just going to rub that little handle side down. Come around. And so when I'm working, I'll usually, for this size, I'll probably make a dozen of these and a dozen of the smaller ones, and that's really the larger ones. And it has to sit up quite a while, probably till tomorrow, before then I can come in and put the glass and the white dots on these blue and tan pieces that you see here. The long runs are pieces of glass that I embed into the clay while it's still soft enough. And then the dots of white slip clay are also done that way. I do this for this style. And I do this because on the front and the back, that vertical run, it needs as much, it gets going, and if it doesn't have enough length, it'll fuse to the kiln shape and things like that. So anyway, that was making the medium-sized bent handle bowl. Its little ancestor right there, and those just came out of the kiln this morning. So they're the first smaller ones out.
What is this pattern?
We call that West Texas topaz. Topaz being the state mineral rock. And the chili pepper beige is the base glaze, a little bit of a dark blue, and then the topaz is on top of the dark blue, making all that color. So that's 3 different glazes. Oh yeah, this is, that's a rattlesnake. Appropriate. Well, you might just look around if you want to some more. That's the only piece I'm going to make right now.